I was teaching this details of my Çamlıca dream, then Ali Sirmen, the well-known journalist of the Cumhuriyet newspaper, said he wanted me to meet with Çelik Gülersoy, who was in charge of the preservation of historical sites in Istanbul and was an enthusiastic supporter of my ideas. When we met, Gülersoy said, "When I read your famous article on the dream of Çamlıca in Hürriyet, I decided to preserve the top of the hill from constructions. I put up an Ottoman-style köşk and took away the central TV and other antennas serving Istanbul, hoping that one day your project of turning Çamlıca into a Washington, D.C. of the Turkish-Greek Confederation could become true." Finally, in 1996, a book of mine was published in Turkish on the Ottoman Empire under the curious title, Turkish-Greek Empire. Ehsan Massoud wrote an article in Prospect magazine on the 26th of July, 2008, under the title, A Modern Ottoman, referring to Gülen. On October 31, 2007, the Turkish press reported that Gülen had changed the map that was hanging in his room. True, for years, Gülen had hung a map of the Ottoman Empire in his room with the sentence, "You are always in my dreams." You see how many dreams. But later, he replaced it with a world map, and even later, he replaced the second map with a third planetarian map taken from outer space. This he did in order to make it clear that the very definition of the ecumenical empire that had been the Ottoman Empire is planetarian, an ideal that has no boundaries. Ottomanism is by definition planetarian. One basic element of Ottomanism was the institution of Bektaşism Alevism as the backbone of the Ottoman dynasty. Even though Gülen is a Sunni, he defends the Alevis. In his book, Advocate of Dialogue, he says that the Alevi temples, the Cemevleri, must be protected and supported. In Ottoman times, all temples, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, were built side by side and coexisted in peace. He even insisted that Alevi temples should be erected near mosques. He added that the Alevi problem was so serious that if full liberty was not given to them, Turkey was in danger of being dismantled. The president of the Alevi Cem Foundation, Dr. İzzettin Doğan, in an interview given to the Turkish newspaper Vatan in 2008, said, "I know Fethullah Gülen. He is a person that I respect. I see him as a thinker and a philosopher who is interested in Islamic issues. We have met several times and he has visited me." Another Turkish newspaper, Zaman, wrote on June 19, 2008 that, quote, "Gülen has the courage to lend open support to Alevis. Since 1995, he has been an avid advocate of Cemevis, the Alevi temples. The best way for Canadians to understand what is Ottomanism would be to compare it to Canadian federalism. With the rise of secularism in the 19th century, people were divided among themselves. Hatred of one people against the other brought ethnic cleansing and racism. Religion was separated from civil society, creating a schizophrenic individual in which the body was separated from the soul. Because a body cannot survive without a soul, religion was replaced by an ideology called nationalism. borders were drawn everywhere. The multi-ethnic, multi-religious, multicultural, multilingual Ottoman Empire was cut into pieces. That is, was Balkanized and Middle Easternized. In present-day Turkey, the nationalists which destroyed the Ottoman Empire are called Kemalists and secularists. The federalists which tried to recreate it in the form of a confederation are called Fethullahçılar. Ottomanism is an ideology of the second half of the 19th century, based on the nostalgia of an embellished past in the time of the full decline of the Ottoman Empire. It was not initiated by the Turkish element, who was living in its overwhelming majority as peasants in the countryside, but mostly by the Greek Christian urban Ottoman elite called the Phanariots. In Canada, the equivalent of the Phanariots were the French Canadians, the French Canadian elite of Montreal, exemplified by Pierre-Elliott Trudeau.
2 minutes.
I know my time, yes. The Phanariots, even though Christians were monarchists, that is, supporters of the Sultan and the Ottoman system of government, in which they played a leading role at the top of the Ottoman establishment. This nostalgia was based on the utopia of an ecumenical, harmonious, and tolerant Ottoman society, of a lost paradise, destroyed by Western nationalism, but which could come back as long as the Russian descent in the Mediterranean could be stopped. The Ottomanists were opposed to the wars of independence in the Balkans and the Middle East, supported by the West, knowing well that each of these wars created by opposition a counter-war of independence. Thus, the Greek War of Independence of 1821 created, a century later, in 1919, the Turkish War of Independence, which gave the last blow to the Ottoman Empire. Today, Turkey lives in a state of civil war between the nationalist secular Kemalists flocked around the military establishment and the Ottomanists inspired by Fethullah Gülen, under the guidance of the present government of Erdogan since 2002.